often we put generations into boxes, the millennials, the Generation Xers, the baby boomers, and we give them unfair labels, especially when you look at some research recently. Dr. Nick joins us with more. Good to see you. What would you be called? Would you be a boomer?
I'm a boomer.
Okay. I don't know what I am.
I'm a boomer. I was born in 54.
Okay.
Born in 54. But again, I don't know what that stereotype is. I just know that when we talk about millennials, we really have gotten very good or bad, however you perceive it. As categorizing, as labeling.
Yes.
Entitled, spoiled.
Very self-absorbed.
Self-absorbed.
And tell me about the research that you came across that says we are wrong about them.
Whitney, I know I can be over-dramatic, but they researched 600,000 people.
Yeah, over 8 years.
Over an 8-year period.
Which was impressive.
And the conclusion is that what 2 out of 100 maybe would fit the stereotype. They found that most of the differences were intergenerational, meaning that millennials were very different from each other. It wasn't millennial versus baby boomer.
All right.
As different. You with me?
I am.
It was inter. And what he was saying in his article, which just fascinated me, is that we spend entirely too much time categorizing and labeling and saying, and therefore expecting certain behaviors.
Because 98% of the Xers or the millennials they're different.
They're different. They're different. And
so, yeah, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, because you were laughing earlier when we were kind of chatting about this before segment, and I was saying, well, yeah, they say that the millennials like flexibility, and you said, who
doesn't like flexibility? They like flexible work schedules. Who doesn't like that?
What about they want to start a job at 40, 45, 50,000? You said, who wouldn't?
Who doesn't want to start a job at that?
It was. I think the real fascination with it was that, and we really didn't talk about this. I think we have to live with categories.
Oh, you do?
Yes, I do. And then once we frame the category, we kind of throw it out the window. But there's something about us that tends to need to group people to make life less complicated.
Interesting.
It is interesting. But when you think about it, it does make sense. We do need to group people. That doesn't mean to discriminate. It doesn't mean to prejudice. Look what we do with Myers-Briggs. Oh, you're an extrovert, or you're an introvert.
Yeah.
Or you're intuitive.
You're a BC, you're an AD.
And it's like, or type A personality. Yeah. Don't you see, there's a tendency, we need to do it. But once we do it, we need to throw it out the window. And that's what I thought was so great about this research, that ultimately we look at each person's individual talents, skills, needs, goals, attitudes, and he was saying that they're all different.
Well, we were using my son as an example, who's 20, and my niece Lily, she's 20. So you and Reed would have just as much in common personality-wise, if not more so, than Reed and Lily, which is what this study said.
That's what he's saying. Could be.
Sure.
And maybe not. But the point is that we don't need to set up necessarily, I just know what I'm going to get when I'm around Reed.
Right.
I was telling you when we were at the funeral that of your mother-in-law that Reed walked up to me and gave me a big hug and said, hello, Mr. Nicky. Well, Whitney, immediately I thought, well, that's kind of neat for a millennial. Do you hear how we do it? Do you hear how we do it? I had a waiter not long ago, 20 years old. Fascinating. Works hard. Asked him about the menu, and he said, well, honestly, I've only been doing this for a couple of days. And I thought, that's great.
He's honest.
A baby boomer would have said, well, you need to get this.
The most expensive thing on the menu.
Which is unfair to the baby boomer. But I'm just saying that it's really kind of taking the person for the person and not the age.
Right. Right. Is there a difference between categorizing people and labeling people?
Well, if I were gonna answer that personally, I would say the labeling sounds pejorative. It sounds negative.
Yes.
Categorizing, it doesn't sound that way to me. It's like we have to live with categories. I've got files in my office.
Sure.
Huh?
Well, I think it speaks to what your experience with Reed at the funeral, which is that you had him in a category. He's a millennial, but then all of a sudden, when he came up to you first, I'm so glad to see you. You were like, well, that's unusual for a millennial, because you had labeled him.
I had labeled him. And then the more we got to talking, I was realizing, wow, he's really got his own experiences. He was correcting me on some of the things I thought about Colorado and about where he goes to school and about, you know, what they do socially. We'll leave it at that. You know, but I just was so struck, and I really would love for the audience to, let's just be careful.
Yeah.
About this is what I should get from this age group, or this age group, or that age group.
And certainly,
I'm a baby boomer, and I'm ready to go to the beach and work in a bar.
Right. Probably not the typical boomer, but that's just because we're our own thing.
Right.
And I have to say about the millennials, because I think a lot of times when they have summer jobs or people encounter with them as they graduate, go into the workforce, that even employers or coworkers have a mindset on who they're going to be, right? They're going to, as you said, maybe they're going to be self-absorbed. It's all about me, unrealistic expectations on income and all those type of things. And it's not fair to them.
It's not fair. It's not fair. And when you think about it, it's not really fair to the employer, because he may be missing something that they bring in gold.
Yes.
And they don't see it.
Yeah, because they're not looking for it.
Because they're not looking for it. Because they're not expecting, you know, him or her to have. And plus, Whitney, I just think that the value, again, of every age, it's just, they have just so, like a 90-year-old has much to offer.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, a 100-year, every age, a 12, 13-year-old, they see the world a certain way. Yes. You know, and so you want to respect their vision of the world. The only thing that I thought he was missing out on, and I know it's stereotypical, was the social media aspect. But then you were saying, well, everybody's caught up in it now.
Yeah,
we can't just blame them.
Right, right. Now they spent more of their lives doing it, but you know, certainly we all are there.
But this is real quick. I was saying, you know, I was out to lunch, and the waiter was 20 years old and was very honest and really professional, working hard. My brother was with me. This is where I think I could be fair without being unfair. Joseph said, I can't get my Wi-Fi to work. Guy picked up the phone, had it done.
They are great for that.
I'm sorry, I know that sounds like a label, but I would turn to a 20-year-old when it comes to a computer issue.
Know where the experts lie. Always.
But again, I don't know I don't think he's saying that that's a bad thing. I do. Again, I think there's some things we can generalize on it. They are more computer savvy.
They've done it.
But that's a positive.
I think so too. When mine's not working, it's a real positive.
But the real thing is to be careful with labels. Yeah, that's a good insight. Categories are fine. Labels can be so degenerative, unfair, negative, missing.
Yeah.
We miss the real person.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dr. Nick. More Weekends with Whitney after this.